Occasionally, we like to take some time to check in with the mayor of Battle Creek, Dave Walters. Today's that day. Hi, Dave.
Good morning, Richard. How are you?
Great. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
So there's a number of things you're working on, as always. One of them is being discussed at this point, and that's the notion of elections on even years.
Yes.
What is that all about?
I'll tell you what it's all about. First thing would be saving some money.
Okay.
If we keep it the way it is and we have the city commission elections on those odd years, it varies anywhere from $25,000 to $30,000 to run that election.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, one of the tasks as commissioners we're assigned to is keeping the budget, right? Staying within the budget and doing that. If we could save that money, that would be tremendous in itself. We also thought that voter turnout might be better. Sometimes we're averaging on city commission races as low as 8, 9, 10% of the voters, but obviously in a general election or, every 2 years on the even years, much better turnout, and also absentee voters, so there's a higher number there as well.
So the notion is more about not necessarily the years that end in even numbers, but fatigue voting more often than might be necessary. Is that the thought?
It could be, and we looked at the fact first, the cost saving. Our city clerk Victoria Hauser, who's fantastic, has done a lot of homework on this, as well as the city administration. So we looked at those dollars. The one thing that we're also looking at, though, is the drop-off. Our city commission elections on a general election day might be on that back page, or the back side or something. So, but I still think in the information that we've received that the voter turnout should go up, and what we would certainly like to see.
Is that been presented to you as an issue when the city is on the back, people don't get that far?
It has, and we're working through that. And we know that the people that work in the precincts around the city, when it is front back like that, they have them laid out. They work through that, and we just have to put a little extra effort into that and make sure that the voters are informed. And I agree with what our county clerk said at one time was. It's not the sheer number of the voters that we need informed voters. So it sometimes also it tends to be if it falls in the general election time, the even numbers, we have more informed voters because it's just kind of the buzz that's going on.
They're already in a mindset of having to absorb information about other races, so why not latch onto that momentum?
Correct. I guess there's that, one concern that we would get lost in the shuffle, but I'd like to think not.
All right. So while our minds are open to these things, maybe that's the time to take advantage of a greater focus.
I would agree.
All right. Mayor Dave Walters is here. We'll talk more about this in just a moment on 95.3 WBCK, among other things, too, coming right up. 95.3 WBCK. We're talking with Mayor Dave Walters of Battle Creek today. So the even year election then is city commission only, or is it city related issues as well? I mean, what's the boundary line here?
Anything we would want to put on the ballot could, of course, be on at that time.
Right.
It would actually, we would have to change right now and just do an ordinance change of doing a 3-year election if we were to do it during this cycle. And certainly I can't go out and poll the commissioners at this point or anything like that.
Yeah.
But there seems to be a tremendous interest among the commission and among the citizens that, let's do this one time 3 years, so then we would catch up to 2020, and then we would have that 3-year period to also maybe look at 4-year terms versus 2. How do we choose the mayor and vice mayor? So we might open it up. That gives us 3 years to open up some of those items as well.
Well, these things sort of ride a boundary line where some folks say, okay, it's time to evaluate how we do these things, and then there's the other notion that why should we change these things if they've been working okay? You probably hear both of those sides.
We do, but I kind of think shame on us if we're not at least looking at these things,
right?
Keeping track of them, evaluating them, and like I said, we have great staff at the city that is on top of this and giving us some ideas. So it's not cast in stone, obviously, yet. It's got to come up in front of us, which I think it will soon. But I think it's a win-win-win all the way around. Biggest thing is we want to make sure that the citizens have a voice, they have input in choosing who their elected officials are and whatever else might be on the ballot.
All right. So obviously there's some time yet. There was just a discussion. I think it was a work group, wasn't it?
Yeah, workshop, yes.
That looked into this. Now where do we go?
Great question. We're working with the city attorney to make sure that the language is correct in our charter, the state language on election laws, and the city clerk is working on that, just to make sure that we're doing everything within those guidelines to try to put this 3-year possible commitment and election in process for this fall.
Mm-hmm. All right. And with regard to that, just to be clear, this requires a change, and is that a change that the commissioners only make, or is that a vote that the citizens will have to make?
Another great question. This would be one that the commission can vote on.
Yeah.
Certainly we want to hear from the citizens, and that's why I appreciate you having me on here this morning to discuss this as well.
Okay. And that's easily done by way of the web, probably the easiest way to make contact with.
Absolutely. At the city website as well is all of our contact information for all the commissioners and the staff. So you bet. Reach out to us. Let us know what you think.
All right. And this follows the typical path of something like this. There'll be a public comment session and time to speak out if you want to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So if all goes according to schedule, there could be a vote on this fairly soon, right?
We hope fairly soon, because the packets to be taken out for the city commission race for this year, I believe, are June 5th or 6th, somewhere in that general area. So we want to have that in place because we want any citizens that want to run for the city commission to know that indeed in November it's a 3-year term versus 2, and that those rules have changed for this election.
All right. You talked about how this opens up other evaluating and considering how we, example, elect the mayor and so on. At this point, the city commission elects the mayor amongst itself and amongst its members. Has there been discussion about looking at changing that?
There has. There's been some discussion in the past as well. There's been committees that look at that. Past mayors have been on the committee, and said, how do we do this? Do we truly need an organizational meeting every year, even though the terms right now are 3 years? Now, if we stagger the terms, if that's something we might look at, so what the chances are probably 0 that it could happen. But right now, you could flip an entire 9-person commission on voting night.
Yep.
And so that's in the back of our minds as well.
Yeah, I think that happens with a lot of cities. They have the notion that you want to try and encourage new blood, but you don't necessarily want to lose your institutional memory either all at once.
Exactly. Because there are projects that are ongoing constantly. You need to have some people that are connected and it flows smooth. But once again, the biggest thing is we need to provide the best service to the citizens.
Mayor Dave Walters is here, City of Battle Creek. We'll continue our discussion coming up. We'll get an update on what the mayor's talked to us about in the past, a special agreement with Asian students to come and study and, for that matter, live in Battle Creek, essentially. We'll get an update on that and some other things, too. We're here with the mayor of Battle Creek, Dave Walters. We've talked several times before about this delegation of students coming from Asia who would be studying at KCC or Western, and the preparations have been underway to try and accommodate that. I think we've sold a school building now to help house them, right? And so where do we stand today with that?
Where we stand today, let's go to the school building part first.
Yeah.
They did visit us. The Chinese contingent came over and visited several weeks ago, a couple months ago actually, and are looking at 2 other Battle Creek Public Schools buildings.
Wow.
So those are in the works. I'm not sure exactly as of today where it stands, and working with Battle Creek Public Schools, who is phenomenal to work with on these, but they are indeed looking at Fremont School and Urbandale School, and we toured those with them, and they love those locations. One would be maybe used as lodging, for them, Fremont in particular, because it's right by KCC and the hospital and things like that.
Right.
And Urbandale would be more of actually classrooms and such. But it is moving forward. We can tell you that the South Korean contingent, which is part of this overall collaborative process, has indeed sent money this way, so things are happening.
Okay. They are looking at these buildings presumably through a lens that includes some sort of I hate to say renovation, but probably some sort of a way to accommodate what they need. Right?
Oh, absolutely. They love the buildings as is, but certainly they want to make it to fit their needs.
Yeah.
A great example is when they've purchased Washington School up on Washington Avenue. And that had 10 acres that went with it. So they're looking at actually putting up dorms behind that, on that acreage that would go to the east. Behind Washington School. So they've got some plans. They're looking at some office space in the downtown area as well. So and also a business out in Fort Custer.
Oh,
so
my.
this is kind of branching out a little bit more than we had anticipated, but we're certainly happy about it.
Remind me, was Battle Creek part of a process of elimination? Were they looking at other places too? How did we get here?
Initially, a good question. Initially, it was a contact through Grandmaster Hequan Lee here in Battle Creek, who's from Korea. And he had an idea and had the connections there. And for whatever reason, they were looking at Marion, Indiana, in the Midwest, as well as Battle Creek. And at this point, for whatever reasons, Battle Creek, and rightfully so, I guess. I'm proud of Battle Creek, and I love it. So I'm glad they chose Battle Creek to land and develop.
Right. I'm sure the juxtaposition of availability of facilities and college access and so on played into all of that. Well, that's exciting. Is there a date upon which we cross a threshold here?
Well, we anticipate at least, some students arriving in the fall, maybe starting as early as January.
Okay. That's not all that long.
It's not.
Before I know it, it'll be here.
It will be.
All right. Before you go, let's talk about some exciting things that have been going on around town, and that is the fire hub. Boy, what interest there's been in this business model, to say nothing of the restaurant and all of that. But the notion of a restaurant and a hub for the food bank of South Central Michigan in one place, people are excited about this thing.
You know, they certainly are. And I'm personally really excited about it. I know the commission is, and lots of citizens. It's interesting. This is a unique concept in talking with the governor when he was in town for that, as well as Jamie Stuck, the chair of the Nottawasepi here in Band of Potawatomi. And as just a quick side note, we're all Battle Creek Lakeview grads, which it was kind of like a reunion there. But the governor was telling me that, indeed, this is one of a kind in the entire United States, that there's a project that included a local casino, with the tribe, as well as the state of Michigan being involved, and the city of Battle Creek. So this is unique. There's work that the tribe is going to do with the Battle Creek Public Schools from this as well. And this is just so nice of them to give back to our community and our area.
It's not often, it seems, where an idea like this comes up and you don't get hung up on the money part. Well, in fact, when Mike McFarland was here, he told us he took the idea to the brass at the tribe, and they, without hesitation, were behind it. It's incredible to see that.
It is incredible. And I'll tell you, the one thing a lot of people couldn't see at the grand opening that day, and I was lucky enough to sit up there and just say a few words and welcome people, but Jamie Stuck, the chair, when he was speaking about it, people couldn't see the tears in his eyes and the emotion involved, because they are really committed to this and really excited about it as a group as well.
Well, it's a fun thing, and, we spend a lot of time talking about businesses that are leaving. It's nice to talk about something that's coming here and has such excitement around it.
Oh, you bet. And, eventually we'll talk about some other projects we're working on with them as well. And a simple one is we're looking at bringing the linear path, bringing a little spur down to the hub so people can just ride down there nice and easy, or walk down there as well from the downtown area.
And Bike Month starts Monday, so...
It does.
Can we have that done by Monday?
I'll work on that for you, Richard. Thank you.
Yeah, and speaking of, you're on your bike a lot of the time, too, so this will be a big month.
It is. And the one pitch that I'd like to put in for the month, if I have an extra second here, is indeed the Ride of Silence. The Ride of Silence is more important, I think, this year than any, due to the loss in the Kalamazoo area of those riders, which is horrific. But the Ride of Silence is on Wednesday, May 17th. We kind of muster at Willard Beach at about 6:30, and the ride takes off at 7 p.m. 10-mile ride, very slow, very relaxed, very mellow. A word's not spoken. It's out of respect for the riders that have lost their lives or been injured. and we'd love to see families, anyone, show up with any sort of bike, any sort of riding skill. Please come out on the 17th.
All right. Is there any advanced registration or anything? You just be there.
You can just be there. We're going to hit the media big here soon, and so this is kind of the first talk of that. But we'd certainly like to get a big turnout to support our Kalamazoo neighbors as well.
All right, and it makes it easy to just show up if you are inclined to, and there's no advanced tickets to get punched or anything. You're just there.
You bet.
That's the 17th of
the 17th. Bring a bike. You don't even have to bring a bike. You can come and just show up. We do a little thing before it starts. Read some excerpts of some poems and some different things. It's a international event as well. And the state of Michigan leads the 50 states in having the most rides of silence on that particular night.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Very good to know, and Battle Creek's right there with it.
We absolutely are.
All right. We appreciate the time you give us to check in. Come back whenever you want.
I'd like to. Thank you so much.
All right. Mayor Dave Walters, City of Battle Creek on 95.3 WBCK.